biologically, motivation is something that I've seen kind of how it plays out. And even with the best testosterone levels or the worst testosterone levels or anything in between, motivation comes in waves. I think you have to have discipline for when the waves of motivation are lower to kind of keep things operating where they should. But then when motivation does come in these waves, I think it's important to be able to capitalize and ride those waves of motivation.
Now, a classic for Success DNA viewers, discipline or motivation?
Discipline. Motivation. So one thing that's interesting when you, and I can say this as someone who works in a field where, I've got multiple thousand clients on TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. We initiate testosterone replacement therapy in hundreds of guys every week. And testosterone is a molecule that makes people more motivated. So biologically, motivation is something that I've seen kind of how it plays out. And even with the best testosterone levels or the worst testosterone levels or anything in between, motivation comes in waves. Motivation ebbs and flows. And I think, if it's discipline or motivation, if it has to be, if there has to be polarity between the two, it's going to be discipline. But ideally, you want both. So I have waves of motivation that I ride when those waves come up. So if I just traveled, as we were saying before we hit recording. I've been away for the last month, all across Australia, all across the US, working with my clinics, running seminars, doing podcasts. Super inspired, super motivated while I was doing that. You get like momentum and inertia. And so, during that period, I was working twice as hard. I was kind of, running all the businesses while I was traveling, consulting with my clients. It was working really well. And then when I came home, I crashed. I was exhausted, super tired. Still disciplined to do the stuff that I needed to do, but I wait for those kind of motivation waves to come through to kind of, work overtime and push harder. So I think you have to have discipline for when the waves of motivation are lower to kind of keep things operating where they should. But then when motivation does come in these waves, I think it's important to be able to capitalize and ride those waves of motivation because as humans, things do kind of ebb and flow a little bit, and there can be a little bit of a push and pull in this. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Basically, use the momentum as much as possible.
Use momentum as much as possible. And I think that one of the things that people in entrepreneurship will often stuff up, and this is more coming from like the health and fitness background, is that you can't be super disciplined and motivated to work really hard on your business if you're not taking care of your physical body properly. So if you're sleeping badly and drinking a bunch of alcohol and not eating nutritious food and not exercising, and especially here in the winter, if you're not getting any sunlight to compound that, you're not going to run a successful business. It's not possible because the brain is run as a part of the body like everything else. So we have to fuel and look after the body properly with proper self-care, but also things like self-development as well through like exercise and learning and introspection and all these different things that we can do. So I think that people should not just be disciplined with their work schedule, but they should be disciplined with all aspects of their life to be better, smarter, more powerful men and women. And then as a result of that, to bring not only that higher energy, but then those skills of discipline into the business as well. If you can kind of, I guess, vertically integrate aspects of discipline, not just into your work schedule, but into your workout routine and your nutrition and going to bed and getting up at the same time every day and not drinking alcohol. And if you can bring all of those things together, if you're competing against other people who aren't doing that stuff, that's when you'll leave those other people behind.
Right. Okay. So we touched on healthcare. Can you explain the viewers that may not know about testosterone replacement therapy? What it is, what is it for, and how it works, basically.
Sure. So yeah, testosterone replacement therapy, which we abbreviate to TRT. People listening may be more familiar with something like the concept of female hormone replacement therapy after a woman goes through menopause. This was kind of the most popular, well-known form of hormone replacement. But men also get a similar hormone decline at around the same age that women do. It's just that when a woman hits menopause, it's much more of a sharp, acute kind of drop. Men tend to have declining testosterone levels over a longer period. The area that I work in more so is for younger men who've either abused anabolic steroids in the past for bodybuilding, or this new kind of phenomenon that we're getting with younger guys who are in their 20s and 30s who have either been unhealthy when they were growing up or something's kind of happened with their health where despite even, good habits with self-care or maybe kind of a little bit average habits, they have got deficiencies in their testosterone levels, leading them to feel far worse than they should at their age. And ultimately, what we want to do, especially with younger men, is to not have them require testosterone therapy. So if someone comes in and they've got low testosterone, but they're drinking alcohol every day and they're eating junk food and they're not exercising, then we can go, okay, these things need to improve. That, this is this because of this. And if we fix this, then this will correct and we won't require, ongoing hormone replacement therapy. But for some men who are doing everything right and still have poor testosterone levels, this can be the reason why they're having poor sexual health, physical health, mental health, immune system health. And when we restore the testosterone levels to what a healthy man their age should have, they find that they get drastic, life-changing improvements in all aspects. And it was that experience for me when I started testosterone shortly after my brain injury that inspired me to basically abandon my previous career and do this, because it was such a life-changing thing that I wanted to be able to share with as many people as possible.
If you've just started TRT, it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed and confused. There's a lot of new territory to cover, and there is a lot of conflicting information. I wrote TRT 101 so that you can have everything that you need to know in an instruction manual in one place that you can refer back to, that you can have all the questions answered before they even come up. TRT 101 is my best practice approach for TRT from start to finish, and it contains everything that you need to avoid all the challenges and pitfalls that I've seen come up in my clients over the last 5 years. You can check it out via the link below.
Right. So, has anything bad happened to a person who's doing this therapy, or and also can you share any misconceptions about this particular topic?
Yeah, so the like a lot of things in medicine and healthcare, the dose makes the poison. So, if you take 5 or 6 times the amount of testosterone that a healthy man should make, you can put on some serious muscle in the gym. You can, and this is what a lot of, bodybuilders are doing, is they're taking not just much higher doses of bioidentical testosterone, but also anabolic steroids, which are a little bit different. But one of the challenges is that when it's kind of like if you supercharge a car, then the car might fall apart more quickly as a result. You can drive faster, but you might not
Yeah.
drive further over time. So the challenges that people have with testosterone therapy and in various forms tend to come from abusing the dose for gaining muscle.
All right.
When it comes to doing testosterone therapy properly, the challenges that people have, that the main one, and the reason why my consultations go for an hour instead of 10 minutes, is that once you start testosterone therapy, you're on it for the rest of your life. That's why it's a big thing.
Irreversible.
It's irreversible. If it wasn't, we'd basically say, we'll just take some testosterone and give it a try. Probably feel better, right? So there's a big barrier to entry, because once... so let's say if you took an injection of testosterone now, your body would sense and go, oh, there's plenty of this already here. I don't need to make any more of this myself.
That's why you need to gain more.
Yes. So the problem is that your brain senses that there's a bunch of testosterone here. So it basically shuts down the signal to your testicles to say, make testosterone. So as a result, your testicles shrink up and they stop working. And you're basically now doing the job of the testicles yourself for the rest of your life, which
that sounds crazy.
Yeah, this is why it's a big conversation. It's a big commitment, because it's kind of like when we have type 1 diabetics, their pancreas doesn't make insulin. So whenever they eat carbohydrates, they have to inject insulin.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You're basically shutting an organ down, but you're shutting it down because... And I guess if we're going to talk about business, it's kind of like if you owned let's say a box factory, your production of boxes would only be as good as the weakest link in your team. So if one guy in your team is on the assembly line is doing a really bad job, you're basically coming in and going, I'm going to fire you because I can do that job myself much better, but it means you now have to do that job for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So the challenge of it is that you can't just go down to the pharmacy here and just buy testosterone. It's very scheduled, which means it's difficult to get, kind of like stimulants or opioid medications or these more strictly prescribed medications. So it's a bad combination to be dependent on something that's difficult to get. So the reason why I own and operate these clinics all over the world is to help people solve that problem of being able to access the treatment in a way that is safe and effective, but then also guide them in doing the treatment so that they're going to get the outcomes that they need. The other misconception is that guys think that TRT will make them infertile. If it made everyone infertile, we would use it as male birth control, and it would be very popular for that.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of money to be made in that. It can impact some people's fertility, but we can also bring their fertility back if their fertility does get shut down. So that can be a bit of a barrier for younger men saying, oh, I'm not going to do it because I might want to have kids in the future. But that's, not an issue that we have to worry about.
Right. You also mentioned that at first you have to start and basically evaluate your lifestyle and choices that you make every day. So you basically coach on that too also, right?
Yeah. My ultimate goal for everyone who comes to see me, if possible, is to be able to get the result of doing TRT without needing it.
Right.
So what we wouldn't want to have happen is someone start TRT, shut down their production, and then find out that they just needed to stop drinking alcohol every night, and then they would feel better. And it's something that comes up a lot because a lot of the time people don't realize that, a couple of drinks every evening or, just eating badly in general or not getting enough sleep or just having each of these things being a little bit off in combination can really lead to some problems long term. So I coach them on that. But the reason that I also coach them on that once they've started the therapy is that if we take a healthy testosterone level and we put it into a man that's unhealthy, it's kind of like if you take a supercharged Ferrari engine and put it into a really bad car, it's just going to fall apart again. So we have to make sure that if we are going to optimize someone's testosterone levels, that they're living in a way that if they could make those levels, they would. So we have to basically go, look, if you want to have the testosterone levels of a healthy, athletic young man, you
still have to be athletic.
You have to do all the stuff that he would do, which, when I speak to people who aren't in the medical field about it, they're like, that makes sense. But when you speak to doctors about it, they're like, oh, really? And it's like, yeah, because the Western medical model, which is kind of infiltrated here a little bit, you guys have kind of got a mix of some leftover stuff from Soviet medicine. You guys have got a bit of Western. It's kind of a bit of an amalgamation, which is really cool. But in the Western model, it's very much like if you have this sickness, you take this medicine, this sickness, this medicine.
Yeah.
And in reality, the problem is that it's a lot of the time a combination of side effects of the medication, but also lifestyle issues. And if there's a mismatch with lifestyle and hormones, that's when we can run into problems.
Right. What are your tips for lifestyle that encourages natural testosterone production? In other words, what are natural ways of remaining a man?
Yeah, and this stuff's really important because this is the same stuff that you have to do if you're on TRT to avoid side effects or to avoid going on it. So it's the same stuff. You have to understand is that testosterone does not by default make you a masculine man. It facilitates you becoming that man, but it will not do that work for you. How does testosterone impact how you feel, and how are those mechanisms occurring in the brain?